What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kinda Funny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at Kinda Funny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, SnowBikeMike, and today I am joined by my two incredible, illustrious, and downright awesome co-hosts. Parris, what's going on? How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm feeling good, Parris. I'm happy to be back. I don't think people out there on the opposite side will notice, but we're here on a Thursday afternoon. A little switch up, right? It's not quite the weekend vibes like we normally have. We still got to make it through one day of work, but you know what? I'm feeling good. I'm loosened up, coming hot off of a great week of content with Kinda Funny and a whole lot of Outriders, which can't wait to talk with you about here in just a little bit of like, what's your impressions after a week or so now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, a fantastic job you've been doing this week. I got to see, you be a part of the Gamecast for the Outriders review. I got to watch some of the Luna stream that you're on. Great stuff, man. So, but yeah, I'm excited to talk a little bit more about Outriders, kind of give my final impressions before we move on.
I love that. I can't wait for that. And of course, our guy in the Los Santos streets, he's back. Gary Mitchell, Carson Longcock. Now he's back as just Gary Whitta, the rogue one. What's going on, boss? How are you?
It's just me. It's actually a change to be myself for once. I'm so used to being these other characters. But yeah, I've had a good week, kept busy. Actually haven't been able to get into the city as much as I would have liked this past week because I've been juggling various different work projects and stuff like that. And now we've got this slightly adjusted schedule. We're going to record, I guess now we'll record Thursday afternoons and we'll drop the episodes Friday morning rather than Saturday morning. So, hey, for all the Xcast fans out there, you just get all this goodness and positivity one day early.
Exactly. Now you get to end your week and start your weekend with us, which is going to be a great combo. Let's jump into it, guys. What the heck have you been playing? I'm going to kick it to Gary, actually, because I know Parris, he's jumped just a little bit in to a game that I'm absolutely loving right now. It Takes Two. Gary, what have you been thinking about that?
It Takes Two. I've been a big fan of Joseph Fares ever since his first game, A Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, which I just thought was wonderful. And Joseph, like 3 games now, it's always been the same mechanic, right? 2 characters working together in a collaborative way. And it's been interesting to see the different ways that he's approached that with A Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. It was this very clever mechanic of controlling one character with the left thumbstick and the other character with the right thumbstick on the same screen. And it was one person playing 2 characters, and he came up with all kinds of like really delightful mechanics and clever ways to approach, collaborative puzzle solving that we hadn't thought about before. Really, really clever. Just a great, great debut. A Way Out, the Prison Break story, I thought was fantastic as well. Again, a different approach. It's for 2 players, right? And he would split the screen, and the screen would do all kinds of wacky split screen things depending on who was the focus of the action at any one time. But that was like couch co-op. And I thought he totally reinvented couch co-op with A Way Out. My wife and I both love that. So 2 for 2, Joseph Fares. As soon as we knew he was doing It Takes Two, my wife and I were both like, this is the next thing for us. And when it dropped and when we tried it, I think it's his best game. Yeah, I think that everything that he's taken in learning how to do these collaborative, cooperative, 2-player puzzle-solving, platform adventuring type mechanics has been applied to It Takes Two. It's so whimsical. It's so beautiful. It's got heart. It's got passion. It's fun. It's wacky. And the puzzle design and the level design and the way in which the 2 players are asked to collaborate to solve puzzle and navigate obstacles and progress is like every 5 minutes you're like, that's genius. Like who thinks of that? Like it's just so clever. It's so delightful. My wife and I are loving it. My daughter and I are loving it. Just a wonderful, wonderful game. I think even though it's a shorter game, and I think these shorter games that are only about 10 or 12 hours long, I think often get overlooked when, awards time comes around. I know it's early. I know it's only April, but I think we're going to be talking about It Takes Two in the Game of the Year conversation, certainly in the relevant categories.
I love that, Gary. Parris, have you got to try this at all before I touch on it?
No, and it's a finger of shame towards me. I've been meaning to. I really want to. It's just, as I'm sure we'll get into later, it's just been so much other stuff going on. I haven't had the opportunity yet, but it's absolutely on the list for everything that Gary just said. Everyone that I know has played it, has raved about it. Yeah, we'll be talking about this game at the end of the year. Jeff Keighley will have a segment in the Game Awards at the end of the year, and they'll be talking about this game. So I am excited to play it, and hopefully I'll be able to do that. Probably with one of my kids is the plan here soon, probably next week or so.
That's cool. I was actually going to talk with you both about it because I've been playing a lot of it. I'm probably about 80% done with it now, and I've been playing with my girlfriend, and we've been having a ton of fun. But it's interesting, right? You go from Brothers: A Tale of Two, and then into A Way Out, right? And it's like, man, now you look at this one, and it's kind of about, a family and divorcing and being separated, but trying to rekindle that love. And you say, I might play with my kids. And I was going to ask you and Gary's like, do you think this is like one where you want to play it with your partner or significant other? Would it be a different vibe if you played it with one of your kids or one of your just friends there? What kind of vibe do you think would that be? Would it be different for you?
I think the vibe might be slightly, playing it with my kid, we were both just enjoying the game for what it was. And it is a delightful concept. And I don't think it's any kind of spoiler to say this, because like the story leads with this. Like the game opens the idea of this couple that are getting divorced. They've got a young daughter. She's really sad about the fact that her parents are going to separate. And she has these two little dolls that she's made of her mother and father. And the dolls basically come to life, embodied with the spirit of the two parents, right, who are going to be divorcing and separating. And right away, you instantly know this is going to be a story about them going on this adventure. They're going to reconcile as parents, like they're going to be, mommy and daddy aren't going to split up after all. And the game kind of very much wears its heart on its sleeve. So yeah, playing with like a romantic partner with husband and wife playing together, and it's a husband and wife character. I actually think, and this is going to sound really silly, you know how I like to overdo it when I become really enamored with a game, Mike. I actually think this game could be a little bit of therapy. If you're in a real life situation with your spouse, your significant other, maybe you've been bickering a little bit lately, play this game. And just like the couple in the game, maybe you'll remember that, working together is better than fighting with one another. It's really, really beautiful. Joseph Fares does such a great job of like, think about it, again, all these different tones, right? A Brother's Tale of Two Sons was this whimsical fantasy, but it had kind of a dark tint to it, right? It was, they were trying to find medicine to their father was dying, basically, and it had a really a gut punch of an ending, like a real big emotional gut punch. And then A Way Out was like kind of hardcore, Prison Break on Fox kind of thing, like very violent and very gritty and R-rated. And then to go all the way from that to these cutesy dolls in this very cartoony environment just goes to show that Joseph Fares seems like whatever tone he's playing with, he can master it. Like you never know what he's going to do next. And I think that's wonderful. And it is fascinating to see him carve out this very, very specific area of game design, 2-player collaborative game design with a split screen. He basically invented that, right? In the way that he does it. No one else is doing it. He's like, you can just call it like the Joseph Fares genre, right? It's the Haze-like genre that they've created. And it's wonderful. Honestly, my hat is off to the guy. It's so rare to see an original voice come through in video games these days, and he's totally an original voice, and the game is just fantastic. I can't recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, you have said it so well, Gary, and I'll just try to add a little bit to it of like, it is so much fun. It's an absolute blast, and Hazelight Studios and Joseph Fares have done it again, as you said, right? This is another banger that you can play with a friend, and of course, it encompasses the Buddy Pass again, which I love, right? That you buy it once, and then you can send out the code to play with somebody else, right? They can go download it off the storefront.
That's great too, yeah. Especially for a shorter game, right?
Oh, it's incredible, Gary. I think that's one of those, like, you're building that co-op online experience that we've kind of lost, right? You see a lot of games, it's either hardcore multiplayer shooters and it's 3 to 4 people, or you're just playing the single player games. There hasn't really been a lane that's been so often touched on, which is just 2-player co-op with an awesome, fun, engaging story and some great gameplay. He's really figured it out with that foundation of A Way Out into this, where you can see it, right? It's like, it's a different tone, but the mechanics are still there. You work together to solve different puzzles. He's got fun mini games that you can stop for 5 minutes and play with one another and beat each other up as whack-a-mole or different fun Game Boy games. And it's really cool to see that. And I actually like, this cartoony nature, this story that they have, so much better than A Way Out. I love that Prison Break stuff, but like, this is fun to me. I love the whimsical nature of what we're seeing. And another good one over there. So I hope that we continue to beat this drum. I can't wait to hear what Parris says, but I hope at the end of the year, this is brought up in conversations, right? We always talk about this first quarter, this first half of the year. A lot of these great games will come out, and then we kind of forget about them, right? But will we remember the Hitman 3s? Will we remember It Takes Two? Will we remember these other games where it's like, hey, like, I hope somebody brings this up in conversation, because there's some great games that we don't want to forget. Another game that I've been loving, and as I transition over to our other co-host, Mr. Parris Lilly, Outriders. Parris, we talked about our initial impressions on the last podcast. Now we've had a full week with it. Of course, you can go check out the Kind of Funny review / impressions over on youtube.com /kindoffunnygames, where the Gamescast talked about it. big time voices on there. Even brought in our good friend Blind Gamer Steve to talk about accessibility. So I highly encourage you to check it out. But now, Parris, it's yours and our time. I get to talk with you about it. How you been feeling after a week?
Feeling pretty good, and I have to make one correction because it was killing me all week on when I said it last week. We were talking about Outriders, and I was saying tier 12, world tier 12. I meant level 12, not world tier 12. So I'm an idiot, right? It was killing me. I was like, oh, someone's gonna nail me on this one. But right now I'm level 22, and
Nice.
I'm world tier 8. On my basically I'm maining Pyromancer, but I also have a Trickster and a Techromancer that I've been leveling up behind that, and they're like in the level wise in the teens. But I'm having a good time with it, and it's funny because like I said, I got to see the review on Gamecast that you did along with Greg and Khalif and everyone else, and for the most part, I agreed with everything that was being said as far as the technical issues and some of the UI issues and some of the things that hopefully they can clean up in the future. But I love the gameplay loop. I do. It has that throwback to the PS3 kind of Xbox 360 era where it's more linear than you would think it would be because it seems like it should be more open world, but it's really not. But the actual when I'm engaging with enemies and the difficulty that you can have going into the various tiers, I like it. The loot drops, once the purple stuff started dropping, I started getting some legendary drops. Was really loving that. The mod system that is in there, I love it in its simplistic nature. I feel like anyone can be introduced to it and understand it, but it is effective and it allows you a different variety of builds to be able to put together. Again, going back to some of the quality of life issues I hope they could fix. They definitely need some kind of loadout system in there so I can kind of save specific builds and be able to swap between them, as I choose. But overall, I enjoy it. And I can see me playing this a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now. But a lot of that, and this is something that Destiny and The Division, all of them suffered through as well, is what's the next thing? What's the next bit of content? Because I do agree with some of the stuff you guys were saying. We'll burn through all this, the expedition stuff. We'll burn through all this stuff in a couple weeks. And then we're going to be like, all right, what's next? What do you got now? I've had my fill of the base game, of the initial loot grind. What's next? What are the new weapons? What are the new gear that you're going to introduce? What are the new challenges that you potentially can bring into this game? I see so much potential with it. That's why I don't want to necessarily dismiss it as hey, had a few weeks of fun with it and I'm going to put it down and move on to something else, because I think they have the potential here to continue to add to it and keep me engaged with it. So like I said, I'm enjoying it for what it is. Is it the best game in the world? Absolutely not. Is it terrible? No, it's just good, solid. I just feel like it's solid shooter. But I think, Mike, you were the one that brought this up, and it was a great point. It came out at the perfect time. There's nothing to compete with it right now. Everyone's in their back catalog right now playing games anyway. So here was a brand new game that came on the scene to be able to capture everyone's attention at the perfect moment. If this would have dropped in October, as an example, it probably wouldn't have given it a second thought. Might have played it a few times, reviewed it, and yeah, we'd have moved on to Halo Infinite or whatever the other new shiny is out around the holiday period. So I do think they were smart to put it out now when they did. It kind of gives them time to get community feedback. We've already seen a big patch is getting ready to come out already, and allow them to kind of curate and hopefully tighten it up by the time we do get to holiday season. We're going to get distracted with those games, but maybe they'll have that carrot on the end of the stick that'll get us to maybe want to come back and continue playing it after that.
I'm so glad you're enjoying it, Parris, because I've been having a blast. And actually, I want to touch on the timing, like you brought up, right? I totally agree. And that's what I did say is like, it struck at the perfect time. And on top of that, with Game Pass, right? Nobody has an excuse. We always say that here on the Xcast. Like, you don't have an excuse. What are you playing? Nothing right now. So why don't you give it a try with you and your friends? And actually, you talking about that, I started to think, like, what's the roadmap, not for the game, but for us as gamers, right? What is in front of us and how much time do we have? And it's like, man, this team not only struck at the right time, but now has time to perfect the game, add on to stuff, and get us back before the summer months, before the fall, right? This is that perfect time, which, like, you do technically have maybe 3 months here of time to work with before anybody might get fully distracted and really drop this of like, hey, we've added another expedition. We've added some cool monster variation. Here's some more guns that you can go out and grind for. And it's like, man, this team might actually have some extra time down the road here to keep us engaged. Because as you said, right, like for me and my friends, we're going to play this for 2 weeks and we're going to be done, right? We're going to play those expeditions. We're going to have fun, but it's not like a Destiny where it's like, I don't feel that need to grind and have the Gallahorn and make sure I have that special pistol, right? For me, it's like, hey, we had fun. We got to max level. Everybody got some cool gear. Let's get out of here, right?
Yeah.
But with the time that we have and what is on the horizon and what really isn't on the horizon, right? It's like, oh man, if they could pull me back next month, the month after that, I would come back because I don't have many big games on my radar that would take a lot of time away from me. So I'm excited to see what they do. And actually, Parris, I feel bad. Today, me and Greg played with Blessing. And as I said on the Gamescast, I burned through that. I didn't even watch the story, didn't watch the cutscenes. I was just smash a B with my friends and we were going, right? Well, there we were today. And Blessing was actually stop everything, listen to the cutscene. And there was characters introduced. There was fun moments. And I'm like, man, I missed a lot. Like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, what the heck, you know? And I felt like this pull of like, let's get it done. It's not connecting with me. Let's just have some fun. But here we were at about the 65 to 80% mark with Blessing today. I was like, man, like, who's that guy? Or like, what's happening here? This is kind of cool because to me, it was like, we'd go into the cutscene. I'll skip that. Don't worry about it. We'd go past it. I don't know what happened there, but we're moving to a new area, right? And so I can't wait to jump back now, get a new character, listen to the cutscenes, get into the story, because it did seem good enough, right? Fun enough to engage with, especially because I like that gameplay loop, like you said, and I think that will pull me in just a little bit. Have you been into the story? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the story. I quite honestly, I have been letting the cutscenes play out. I still don't really get what's going on, but I don't care. I guess that's kind of the thing. It's like the Division. I have no idea what the story of the Division is. I just like playing it. But I get what you mean. I mean, yeah, they're trying to build a new world. Again, it's a new IP, and I guess that's the other part of this that, you know, I'm really rooting for them to make this a smash hit because they're building out this universe, and inevitably when they're able to do Outriders 2, now at least they've established a base of this world, they've established some characters, and maybe they kind of elaborate on them even more. A great example of that, in my opinion, is Gears of War. If you go back to that original Gears of War story, it was just a lot of dude bro stuff and come on and all that. What was really good? I don't know what was going on to you. But by the time we got to Gears 2 and obviously beyond, you really started to see that character development, you know, especially like the stuff with Dom and everything. And it was great. And maybe that opportunity is here with Outriders as well, which ironically enough, people can't fly to Gears of War Judgment, but you get the point. I think there's an opportunity down the road for them to build on that story and actually get me invested in it versus what it is right now.
It looks like when you look at the charts over on the Xbox dashboard, right? You click on Game Pass, you click on the most played games. It looks like it's high up there and it's getting some good traction. And so I'm sure Parris will agree. I encourage all of our listeners and viewers out there, give it a try. It's on Game Pass, right? There's no excuse. That $60 price tag, we had that conversation during Gamescast, right? Would you not? And I was like, hey, I would after playing it, but I would prefer to buy this at a sales price, right? $40 or below, I would jump on this with my friends. There's no excuse not to try this. And if you're listening out there, whether you play it solo or with your friends, you should click on this. Play it for a weekend. Give it a try. It is really fun, and it's surprisingly much better than I thought it would be and made for a great experience with me and my friends. So give it a try. It's on Game Pass. No excuses. And I want to bring in Gary to this conversation because, Gary, I know you're a very busy dude. You've been lost in Los Santos. You've been doing the biggest and the baddest stuff. But I believe the Outriders team and People Can Fly sent you a fun care package to get you involved and get you gaming. Do you want to show off what cool stuff you got?
They sent a very, very large box. Parris has got one as well. We're trying to get you one, Mike. Want to make sure that everyone in the Xcast gets equal amounts of love. Very large box. You know what it's like. They send these boxes, all kinds of goodies. There's beer in it. We gave the beer away because I don't drink. But it's a very, very. Here's the thing. So they, I like hot. So they sent some like Technomancer hot sauce. Yes. Have you tried this yet, Parris? But I'm going to give you the same warning that I learned today. I was going to splash it all over my scrambled eggs or whatever in the morning. but I saw Danny and Blessing doing a taste test thing. Apparently, it's 120,000 Scoville units. You don't fuck around with that many Scovilles. I would have ended up in the hospital if I'd have splashed it all over my scrambled eggs. You got to treat that shit like it's nitroglycerin. So they send these things. I remember back in the days in PC Gamer, they send these big boxes all the time trying to get your attention. The one thing that they did send, and I do really like, and I do thank Square Enix and whoever the PR people are that sent it, the Technomancer controller. Look at this. We get these lovely special edition controllers sent to us from time to time. This one is very cool. They asked me what character class I wanted, and I noticed that the Technomancer was green. I don't have a green controller yet, so I said, send me this one. Very, very cool. Thanks for that. In terms of the game, yes, I've been spending all of my time in Los Santos, as you know, a little bit of time to Take-Two and play it with my wife and my kid. I got to say, though, all credit to Square, this is a very, very difficult market to break into, the looter shooter market, Division, Borderlands. We see a lot of failures with Anthem and stuff like that. It's hard, especially with a new property, right? Something that isn't already established. Usually the first game, it has the hardest time as it tries to establish a beachhead. And then if it's successful, like the second and third games, now it's a franchise and people are interested. But it's hard to make that first impression. It does seem, though, like they're doing great. The numbers on Steam over on the PC side are incredible. I'm seeing some of the biggest streamers playing it right now. And the vibe that I'm hearing from people is that it actually does do a very difficult genre, the loot grind looter shooter, that it's doing it about as well as any game has done it before, which is, again, there's a lot more failure than success in this space right now because it's an emergent genre and we're still figuring out like how to make it work. And to your point earlier, what do you do when hardcore players burn through all the content and they're like, what now? It takes a lot more time to build content than it does to consume it. So how do you build kind of a repetitive loot grind, carrot and stick model that is compelling and not boring? And it seems like they've done a good job with it. A lot of my friends who've been playing it have been enjoying it. Like you said, it's on Game Pass. I have a PS5 code here as well. I've got it on Steam. I've really got no excuse. Next time I have it, my problem is now is that everyone that I'm playing with, they're going to be carrying me, right? Like world tier, I don't even know what world tier 5 is, but it sounds a lot farther down the road than where I'm going to be starting. I don't want you people to have to carry me, but I'll give it a try. I haven't done it. I haven't done a shooter in a little while. I'll definitely investigate.
Well, that's really cool. I want to give a quick shout out. You held up the controller. Now, Parris, we've talked about Pope Art before. Our good friend Xbox Pope, he changed his name to Pope Art. But I believe, and I'm like 99% sure that Pope Art actually teamed up with Square Enix to create those controllers and that whole line of cool Outriders controllers. So want to give a big shout out to him. I love engaging, talking with him, and seeing all of the awesome art and design that he does. If you're not following him, you can follow him on social media at Pope Art. He's really, really cool, really fun. And he's done some cool custom builds before for just people out in the community, right? He did a personal one for me. He did one for the Xcast and kind of funny. It's just like, it's cool to see that, Parris, because I am not the designer guy. I'm not artistic in any way, shape, or form. And like to see him make these Xboxes and controllers, I'm like, man, this is really cool. I didn't know that.
Agreed. Completely agree. I have zero talent when it comes to that. It's just stick figures and the whole thing. Yeah, I've gotten to know Pope a little bit over the past few years, and yeah, he's a really good dude. Which shout out to Windows Central Gaming, the show with Miles, which you were on, Mike, and I was on last week. Pope is going to be on there this Saturday, and we finally get to see what he looks like. It's the big face reveal. Yeah.
Oh, it's like a Banksy reveal right now. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
How did that Saturday go with Miles? Of course, Miles, a good friend of myself
fantastic.
And you and Windows Central. Did you have a good time on?
Oh,
Xbox
yeah. Miles is great guy. Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend people, and it's only on YouTube. There isn't an audio podcast format, unfortunately. So you have to go to YouTube, go to Windows Central Gaming, and I was on there for a couple hours with them, and we're just. Because the MLB The Show stuff had just happened, so we're talking a lot about that and Game Pass. A lot of subjects we talk about on here as well. But it was a great conversation. One thing I do want to circle back to, Gary. Unfortunately, you're right. I do have my Outriders box, but it is literally sitting outside this room, and I haven't opened it yet because my plan
did I spoil the surprise for you? I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. I already knew because the reason is I was telling Danny right before we started recording that I was going to try the hot sauce on Xcast, like at the end.
Shit!
But I don't have the box because I ran late.
Well, go. You know what? You want to make some premium content, Parris? Go get it. I'll do it with you.
No, I'll do it at the end. But we don't have to do it right now.
Okay, go grab it at the end, and maybe we'll put some on a cracker or something. I don't know. All right, premium content.
That's what we do here. Is right.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Another thing that we were sent, and we want to give a big, big thank you to the guys and gals over at Team Xbox. They all sent us over the Bang & Olufsen Portal headphones for the Xbox right here. We talked about them last week. Now, this is the first product in the designed for Xbox limited series run right here. We had this conversation. These are coming in at $499, and this is the premium, right? This is the top of the top. You guys talked about this name brand here and how cool it is to see Xbox partner up with name brands like this to create a really quality line of products here. And so we talked about that one final time. These were provided by Team Xbox. So thank you to everybody out there for sending that to us. That was really, really generous of you. This arrived yesterday for the three of us. I have, you can tell, still have the plastic wrap on mine. I've not been able to open it up. It's been a busy week here, but I know you two have at least opened it up and can maybe provide me and the viewers out there with just some light impressions or some early impressions if you want to. Parris, I'll start with you. If you
Sure. I'll start because, I threw up that video on social media yesterday where I kind of just did a microphone test with it and just some quick impressions. So to kind of keep this short and sweet, I'll start with the microphone first. The Xbox wireless headset mic is better, in my opinion, which was surprising to me. And people can see the video and see the comparison for themselves. This is absolutely a quality build. This B&O Portal gaming headset, look who made it. Everything that we talked about last week. It is definitely quality. It is extremely comfortable to wear. The sound reproduction that I've got out of this with music, I watched a couple movies in Dolby Atmos as well. Just crisp, crystal clear. There's an app that you can put on your mobile device, which you can do all the setup and everything on there, customize the equalizer, everything you want to do as far as that goes. Night and day. And I wouldn't even say night and day, but a superior experience to even the Astro 850 is as far as sound quality goes. Definitely superior to that Xbox wireless headset. But, and there's a but, and the but is this. It's $500 for these headsets or these headphones. And it does active noise canceling too as well. Does the Bluetooth, can connect directly to your Xbox devices. Like I can connect it on my Windows 10 device using the wireless dongle. All that's great. But the Xbox wireless headset is superior in a couple ways. Like I said, the microphone, the fact that you can also do the dual audio with Bluetooth and your Xbox, your game chat as well. You can have both of those, all that going at the same time. So you can be on Discord via Bluetooth with the Xbox wireless headset. You can obviously hear your in-game, sounds and all that at the same time. And it's great. But the B&O Portal doesn't do that. So that's kind of a ding right there. I'm having a hard time suggesting this to someone at the $500 price point. Is it one of the best gaming headsets you can get as far as sound reproduction and all that goes? Absolutely. I'm just having a hard time. If I would have spent $500 on this, which I was fully intending to do, again, thank you to Xbox for sending this to us. I almost feel early on I might have some buyer's remorse. Now, to be fair, I want to give this an entire week. Next week, I want to talk about this again because I'm going to literally make this my daily driver, both on Windows 10 and for everything I'm gaming and all that. So I want to give it a fair shot and then make that statement. But early on, that's how I feel. I'm kind of struggling at that price point to recommend this to anyone because it is pretty steep. But it is Bang & Olufsen. They obviously make higher end products. They live at that price point, the same as Apple does. So I'm not surprised at the price. I just don't know with the other options out there if it's worth it at that price. So I don't know. That's my early thoughts.
Some good early thoughts right there is right. Of course, remember, thank you to Team Xbox for sending this, but we got them yesterday. So to put Parris and Gary on the spot, I had to do it because I know they at least opened the box. I haven't gotten that far. But Gary, you talked before the show. You said you had put them on and gave them a little run through. What are you feeling right now as your early impressions?
Yeah, I actually got mine today. I guess there was a slight delay with the shipping, so I've had them for less long than Parris. But knowing that we were going to record the Xcast, I ripped them right out of the box and played around with them a little bit. Here they are, as Parris said. Exactly what you'd expect from one of these kind of premium brands. Very, very high end build quality. Like you just look at that and go, yeah, that's like a proper set of headphones. Like that's not some cheap shit from Walmart. Like that's This is the real stuff. And again, we talked about this at length last week, but again, I think just a smart move by Microsoft to associate themselves with a brand like Bang & Olufsen. Bang & Olufsen's one of those brands that like there's all kinds of audiophile brands out there that are like so audiophile, we've never even heard of them, right? Like a real audiophile will tell you, they'll say, oh, these are the headphones that I use. I guarantee you've probably never heard of that brand. But like Bang & Olufsen is one of those brands that audiophiles go, oh yeah, that's really good stuff. But even people who know nothing about audio just know, oh yeah, Bang & Olufsen, that's like the really high end shit, right? They just know. Like Bang & Olufsen's done a great job over the years of marketing itself as, you know, like kind of audiophile quality high end stuff for the masses. So, you know, perfect brand for Microsoft to, you know, get into bed with. I think it makes a lot of sense. In terms of the actual headphones, I played around with them a little bit today, hooked them up to my phone and my Mac and just blasted some music. I was listening to some Best of the Jackson 5 earlier, just cranking up the disco beats. I wanted to really hear some bass. And they're really good. They're really good. So, because I'm an idiot, I bought the AirPods Max a while ago, which are even more expensive, $550. But for me, again, I'm very fortunate that I can afford to buy crazy shit like this. For these, I thought these were worth the money because the sound quality is really fucking great. The noise canceling is fantastic. Yeah. And the transparency mode, which the B&Os also have, by the way, is fantastic. But basically, transparency is the opposite of noise canceling, where the microphones on the outside will actually pull in noise from the outside world. So if you're listening to what you also want to hear someone get your attention, you could do that because you're also hearing the outside world, or you can dial it all the way up to, you know, the noise canceling up to maximum, and you know the world will just disappear. It's actually uncanny with the AirPods Max when you turn on noise canceling but there's no sound playing. It's like it just creates this atmosphere of perfect silence. Like even when you're in a quiet room, you're always aware of like some ambient background noise, just like the sound that the world makes around you, just very, very quietly. But this filters all of that out, and you actually hear this almost uncanny level of silence. It's like being in a sensory deprivation chamber. The B&Os do that as well. I don't think the noise canceling is quite as pronounced. You know, the AirPods Max they really go all out. It's not quite as pronounced, but it is also very good. The transparency mode is very good. Again, I'm not an audio expert. Like again, the audio files will tell you the difference between a $5,000 set of headphones and a $500 set of headphones. I can't tell the difference. I just know that these sound really, really good. Maybe a little bit louder than the AirPods Max. A couple of. You know, I'll give you one pro and one con. The con is I don't love the capacitive control bars on the back. I don't know if you've messed with these much, Parris, but there's one for volume
I have.
And one to kind of slide you between different levels of noise canceling and transparency. I just miss physical buttons. I don't love this trend of like everything being a capacitive button. You never really know. You never get that tactile feedback. Like, did it do anything? I don't know. Is the slider actually? Am I getting any response right now? I don't know. And so you know you're kind of you know have to surrender yourself to that. I don't think it's brilliant in that regard, but you know it works. You know the volume slider and the sliders. Also, the nice thing about it is they do different things. Like for example, when you're on a phone call or listening to music, that slider on the right side will take you back and forth between noise canceling and transparency. When you're in Xbox mode and you're playing a game, that slider adjusts the volume between the game sound and the chat audio, which is also always really nice to be able to balance. The other thing that I will point out, and I bet you noticed this as well, Parris, is what do you got there? Oh, is that the app?
Because the point I was gonna bring, because I agree with you about the the sliders on each side. It's easier to just pull up the app and do it. That's what I've been doing, but obviously that's not going to be ideal for everyone either.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to reach up and do it and not have an extra device. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I noticed, Parris, and you may have noticed this as well, these weigh about 380 something grams. I looked it up. The Astro 850s that you're wearing right now, that I'm wearing right now, weigh almost exactly the same. These are pretty heavy. Actually, one of the big complaints against the AirPods Max is they're really heavy. 380 grams is pretty heavy. These weigh 282 grams. They are way lighter. They're really light and they're really comfortable. And so they do actually kind of feel like they're the kind of headphones where you forget you even have them on because they're so light and comfortable. So I'll give them props for that. Very, very comfortable, very lightweight for a premium headphone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it comes back to again. I mean, you're definitely paying for some premium quality of life things. Like I said, the comfort. level comes out immediately. And then the sound is superior to lesser headsets, especially gaming headsets, right? So I get it. I totally get it. And I understand. And I realize, who made them and how much they would be. But I think, obviously talking to our audience here, who's primarily interested in gaming, like we've talked about, I keep going back to the Xbox wireless headset. I mean, think about it. It's like 75% off for that thing. It's $99. It's a fraction of the price in comparison, and they're good enough. They're good enough for gaming. They have so many features in them. They even have some features, in my opinion, that are better than this one, which is $500. So it really depends what you're trying to use. Like, I can totally see me taking these things, knock on wood, when we get back to a world where we can travel. I could use these with my phone and travel and have the active noise canceling going, and I'm listening to music, and I know I'm getting a very quality experience with it. Yes, these will be great to play games with on Gears of War 5 as an example. Dolby Atmos, do it with these. It's great. But if to the average person that is having to go out and buy these, I don't know if in good conscience I can tell you, unless you're in a position to where $500 isn't a big deal to you, yeah, go get them. Why not? They're great. But if you're kind of struggling with that and you're thinking, maybe I should go just get the Astros, which are $300, or do I go all the way down to $99 for the Xbox versions because that makes more financial sense for me? I can't tell you to go get these because I don't know if you're getting enough out of these that it's not going to hurt. You're not going to have some buyer's remorse at the end of the day. Yes, they're comfortable. Yes, they sound great. But there are some lesser headsets that actually do a few things a little better than this one does. That's
the thing about it, Parris, and we talked about this last week, is, you see this question, well, are they really worth $500? We saw that with the AirPods Max. We're seeing it now with the Portals. That answer really depends on you. How much you're willing to spend. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you're the kind of person who has a lot of money to burn and like price is no object, you just got to have the best. That's the choice for you. But if you're worried about spending a lot of money, then there are, this is the thing that I like about Microsoft, what they're doing right now with the headphones is they've got you covered at both ends. There's a $99 set and the $500 set. And that's even before you start in on all the, the third party options, the Astros and things like that are out there. So there's plenty of options out there. I think it's kind of silly to complain about price because, again, if they're too expensive, if you think they're too expensive, they're not marketed. They're not for you. They're for people that don't care about how much money they spend. And it's not like you're being left out in the cold. They have the $99 ones, which are more than good enough. So something for everyone.
Yeah, and thank you both.
Definitely agree.
Thanks for the quick impressions. Of course, we've had them for 24 hours. Next week, like Parris said, we'll dive deep on these. We'll really give you our impressions. We'll talk more about these, but these are the first set and first pair of the Design for Xbox limited series, right? And Parris, you said it so well last week, right? Xbox is giving you, the player, choice, right? Yeah. You have choices, you have options, which is the coolest part about this, right? We could have just come out with this and been like, hey, this is the only headset we got, right? But no, they got you covered on both ends, like Gary said, and having choice is really something special. So thanks for talking about that with me and the viewers out there, you too. And we'll talk more about it next week as we get to dive deeper into these headphones. But, geez, we got to start the show, I guess. So let's jump into some housekeeping news.
Did we not start the show yet? We've been
at this for started.
An hour almost.
I've lost track of time. I've had too much fun. So this is the Kind of Funny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time. That Saturday morning might be changing very, very soon, but you can catch us over on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, on roosterteeth.com, and on podcast services around the globe. Please do me a favor, whether you're listening on your favorite podcast service or whether you're over here on YouTube, leave a comment, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know what you think of the episode. What do you think of the Kind of Funny Xcast and how we can have more fun with you, the best friends in the audience out there, because we love engaging with all of you and we love sharing the fun and the enthusiasm around gaming and around Xbox. We'd like to thank our Patreon producers, Mick, the nanobiologist, Tom Bach, Elliot, James Hastings, Sancho West Gaming, Julian, the gluten-free gamer, Trent Berry, and Tyler Ross. Of course, this episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast is sponsored by Upstart, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Guys, let's jump into the show because we've talked a lot, and there's even more to talk about. We got another Jeff Grubb bombshell. My good friend of the show, Jeff Grubb, has shaken the internet once again, Parris and Gary, and it's wild out there. Things are getting heated. Things are getting wild. and we got to talk about it. Of course, Jeff Grubb shared this week. It all started just earlier this week after we saw a new game over on the PlayStation 5 side called Abandoned, and a lot of gamers out there thought that that was going to be a Kojima production game. Well, turns out it is not. So Jeff Grubb has taken out to GamesBeat, where you can go catch his article right now, and he has said that the biggest piece of evidence I have that Abandon is not a Kojima joint is that Kojima is in talks with Microsoft about publishing his next game, according to a source familiar with the matter. And yes, that statue on Phil Spencer's shelf was referencing a potential deal with the legendary developer. I cannot confirm if Xbox has closed the deal yet, but my understanding is that Kojima is the focus of a Microsoft plan to leverage Japanese talent. As well, he was in the Kind of Funny Games daily chat today, and he wrote in the chat and he said that he believes the deal is currently with the lawyers now. Parris Lilly, we've talked about Kojima Productions, we've talked about Konami, we've talked about Microsoft and their partnerships. We got the pot stirring here. Jeff Grubb dropped another bomb out there. What do you think about this, Kojima Productions and Xbox?
I think there's a lot of potential there. And I want to clear one thing really quick, because social media obviously loses nuance sometimes when you say certain things. Because obviously this has been a rumor since yesterday when Grubby Grubb dropped it. And my whole thought on it is this: if this actually does become a reality and there's a partnership between Kojima and Xbox, I think this will allow him to continue, keyword there, to continue having the creative freedom, and most importantly, have the budget to keep innovating in the space, to keep making amazing experiences, because ultimately that's what it should be about. And of course, social media spun that into, you're saying Death Stranding wasn't innovative. What are you saying? It's like, this, I'm not talking about Death Stranding. I'm basically saying, yes, to build upon what he's already started
Death
with.
Stranding really innovative, though? Come on.
Hey, I leave that up to other people to decide. You get my point, though. That was clearly his vision. That's what he wanted to do. PlayStation partnered with him to make that a reality, and it is what it is. My point is, he's now chasing the next partnership and the next opportunity, be it with PlayStation again, be it with Xbox, or whatever the case. We don't know. I mean, this is obviously all rumor. I guess the whole point of this is, being an Xbox-centric show, Xbox is clearly being aggressive. They clearly want to make a mark in Japan. So why not go try and partner with Kojima and basically through him use that as a way to hopefully influence more Japanese developers to want to start making games for the platform, because they want to have a Japanese presence. He's quote unquote a free agent right now. You go do it. I mean, obviously they're being very aggressive, and they have the what's the word I'm looking for? They have the finances to make it happen potentially. And if Grubb is correct and it's in the lawyer stage, then it potentially could be imminent. They just might be dotting I's and crossing T's at this point. So I think it's a good thing. It's exciting to see as a gamer. Then hopefully this happens, and in 3 or 4 or 5 years, we'll get to see the next great thing that comes from Kojima.
Yeah, you said it well, Parris. I think let's take a step back as just a gamer. This is exciting, right? This is a creative mind that we all love and adore, right? He's put out so many incredible IPs and games that we really enjoy, right? And we've gotten freaky weird with Kojima, and that's what we want, right? Like, the coolest part is he is now independent with Kojima Productions. And I know that name, when you hear it, you think of PlayStation, right? We've grown up with that. We've always believed that, right? But it is really cool to see him get the support from different publishers and different teams all around the globe and go out there and help him fund his next big project, right? And if Microsoft's the one to do that, it is awesome to see people go out and be like, hey, I love what you do. I do see a great partnership between us, like you said, that could influence a whole lot more than just let me support this next project, right? But it is cool to be like, hey, you're doing great work, and we want to see more of that. And I hope that he gets weird with it, right? Let's just continue to get wild and weird, because it's cool, it's different, it's fun, and you don't see that much in this gaming space, and he's one of the leaders in that. So on the Xbox side, yeah, of course, this would be a big win for them, right? It'd be a lot of fun as an Xbox gamer to hang your hat on that, to be able to see what they're going to do, and the partnership that leads with that, the influence, now to have that flag over there to say, hey, let's talk with more Japanese developers because we've worked with him and see if that can help us. That's a big one that they've always wanted to tackle, like you said, Parris, and that could really help out. So that's a cool one for me. And as a gamer, of course, anyway, it's like funding Kojima is an awesome one, right? That team is working hard to create cool games. This is what we want to see for sure. Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, especially in light of the recent trends that we've been seeing where, we've been seeing these kind of weirdly kind of high profile defections. Like just a week ago, right? We were talking MLB was the big bomb, right? A franchise that has from the very beginning been associated as a Sony franchise, a Sony exclusive. Now it comes over. Now it's not only on Xbox, it's actually the best version on Xbox because, it's on Game Pass. If you've got the subscription, you don't even need to buy the game. So, a lot of people are still kind of tearing their hair out about that one. Oh my God, MLB on Xbox, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria, everyone's freaking out. Now here comes the next big one, Kojima. Kojima's potentially an even bigger one, right? Yes, the original Metal Gear was an MSX and an NES title before, the PlayStation even existed. But Metal Gear Solid was where Kojima really, kind of became a big deal and became famous on the PlayStation, all the way through to to Death Stranding on the PlayStation 4. Kojima is always, like, if you ask anyone in those games what game platform do you associate Hideo Kojima with, they're going to say Sony, they're going to say PlayStation. Well, maybe not anymore. Like Parris mentioned, Kojima's a free agent. He can do whatever he wants. He's got complete autonomy, and there's a lot of people willing to pay him a lot of money to come to their platform, as we're seeing. From Kojima's standpoint, I'm almost thinking, would you want to go to the Xbox? Because, the one thing that we know about Xbox over the years, they've tried and tried again, but they've always failed. They cannot make a dent in Japan. The Japanese market does just not give a shit about the Xbox. I actually don't know what's currently happening with the Series X and X, if it's making any more inroads into Japan than the 360 and the original Xbox. But, the Xbox sales numbers historically in Japan have been pathetic. Like, they just have not been able to make a dent in the Nintendo and Sony power domination that they've historically enjoyed in Japan. They've tried so many times. I remember with the 360, they actually put quite a lot of money into Japanese, developed JRPG style games to try and get Japanese audiences to take the Xbox more seriously. They just couldn't do it. But let me tell you, if there's one power grab that they could make, one key signing they could make that would make the Japanese market sit up and listen, it would be Hideo Kojima. And if Hideo Kojima says my next game is going to be an exclusive on Xbox, Japanese gamers are going to go out and buy Xboxes. He's one of the only guys on the planet that could move the needle for Xbox. So maybe that's why it's worth it to them. They're thinking, obviously it's a big deal globally. Kojima is a global brand, but in Japan, maybe this is the one thing that could actually make a dent in that market for us. Microsoft has been backing up the money truck for a while now. $7 million for Bethesda, potentially $7 billion for Bethesda. So yeah, that would have been cheap, right?
Yeah.
$7 billion for Bethesda, potentially $10 billion for Discord if the numbers we're hearing coming through the rumor mill are correct. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was a similar massive amount of money to Kojima for an exclusive deal for his next 1, 2, 3 games or whatever. It would be huge. It would be seismic. We don't know if it's going to happen, but we're living in a reality now where crazy shit's happening all the time. If it happened, you'd be kind of like, man, that's crazy, but okay. Like, you wouldn't think the universe is collapsing. You'd be like, Xbox has been so aggressive with these big signings, with Game Pass, with bringing MLB over, with Bethesda, with Discord. Kojima just seems like the next logical step in all of these very, very aggressive moves that Xbox is making right now to try and close the gap that has existed for the last couple of generations between them and Sony. And I would love to see it. I mean, we can argue all day about, how original or how good a game Death Stranding is. I personally didn't enjoy it. It wasn't my cup of tea, but I admire the hell out of the fact that it exists. Like, who else could make a game like that? Only Hideo Kojima, who's got such a reputation, one of the few guys in the business, can say, you know what, I'm just going to give me the $200 million. I'm going to make the game. You'll see it when it's finished. I don't want to see any creative notes. I don't want any executives from Sony or whatever sticking their nose in. You'll see it when it's done. You just got to trust me. Hideo Kojima is one of the few guys on the planet that can pull that off and get that kind of creative control. He did it with Death Stranding, which is why the game is as wacky as it is. There's no way that game goes through any typical Activision or EA AAA studio development process at that budget range and doesn't get noted to death and compromised, and all the wacky shit gets filtered down or diluted or taken out. Like, that can only happen when someone like Kojima is given full creative control. So I would love to see that happen. Let's see what's the next wacky shit that he can do with a big budget and no creative interference. You love to see it.
I actually have a question for you on that, Gary, because I'm thinking about it as you're talking. what if this isn't as simple as, hey, let's throw a bunch of money at Kojima so he can make his next game? And I'm thinking into the past, and maybe you can correct me if you remember through the history. But at one point wasn't Peter Molyneux like the head of Xbox Europe or something like that with Lionhead? Like he was overseeing more than just Lionhead, but other studios in Europe. Am I off on that?
I don't remember exactly what the deal was, but I remember he did Bullfrog first, and he founded Lionhead, and Microsoft bought Lionhead and paid him a lot of money. And I think that did involve him. Again, don't hold me to this.
Right. Yeah.
Because my memory is as fuzzy as yours. But I think he may have had some kind of internal role at Microsoft where he was, kind of grandmastering some strategy or overseeing, kind of a more holistic aspects of game development. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know, and I don't necessarily know if the two things are related. If they would do so, are you suggesting they might bring Kojima in as some kind of grandmaster of game development or something?
That's exactly what. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Where, like you mentioned at the top, they've always struggled in Japan. It's not a secret. Phil Spencer himself has said he wants to do better in Japan. Before the pandemic, he was going over there, obviously meeting with studios. Look, shameless plug. When we got to interview him a year ago, he'd even mentioned that was kind of one of the things that has bugged him about seeing Japanese games not showing up on Xbox. He wants more of that relationship. So again, what if this was even bigger than Kojima just getting a boatload of money to make whatever he wants to make? What if this is to put him into, we're going to make you our figurehead, and our figurehead's the wrong word, but make you basically our point person in Japan. Like you're going to lead our effort in Japan. So in other words, not only is he making the things he wants to make, he's actively recruiting in other Japanese talent so they can also make what they want to make. Yeah.
It's not that different to the role that Miyamoto has kind of evolved into at Nintendo, right? Where he designs his own games, but he also kind of oversees the entire kind of creative vision for the company in many ways. I think you're right. I mean, I could totally see that. I could see Phil Spencer making an offer to Kojima where he says, okay, here's what it's going to look like. You're going to develop your own tentpole game. That's going to, because it's not one thing or the other. He can do both, right? You're going to develop your own tentpole game, and that's going to be at the center of this effort. But we also want you to oversee, Xbox Japan's like creative vision. Like you're going to be the guy that spearheads Xbox gaming in Japan, and that means bringing in other developers, working with third-party studios, working with indies, and you're going to be the guy at the top who's like the chief vision officer for Xbox Japan. I think that would be cool. I would love to see what would come out.
I mean, and I could be wrong about his position at Bethesda, but I'm thinking of it like this. You kind of have Matt Booty as your head of quote unquote Xbox Game Studios, and just for pretend, let's just say it's Pete Hines is the head of Bethesda's effort. Now Kojima is the head of Xbox's effort in Japan, right? Like he gets to kind of oversee and help curate that, and and elevate others. Maybe they start new studios in Japan or something like that, and he gets to kind of oversee that, so they get built from the ground up, and they're making new titles that would cater to a Japanese audience, right? I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but I almost feel like there's got to be more to this story other than Kojima's going to make a game that's going to be on Xbox. Because if we go back in history, correct me if I'm wrong, but when they kicked off that 2013 E3 media event, it was Metal Gear 5, and Kojima walked out on stage. So it's not like they don't already have a relationship with him, but this one, just going by what Grubb is saying and just what you see people seeing at this point in time, seems to be an even bigger deal than that this time around. So I am very curious ultimately what it's going to be. Maybe he is just making a game and I'm pie in the sky, but
no, I like kind of the like stepping back and thinking about it in terms of not just one game but a bigger effort. Again, it make the more you talk about it in a grander scale, the more and more sense it makes for me. Again, Microsoft is still struggling. They're obviously doing very, very well in their own right now. The new consoles are a hit. People are like loving Game Pass, but they're still behind Sony. There's no two ways about it. Sony is still number one, right, and has been for a while. And everything that Microsoft's doing right now is designed to both in its own right increase Xbox and make it better, but they're also in a race. They're in a war with Sony. It's a competitive situation, and there's I see every comment thread. But Sony's still number one. The Sony fanboys love pointing out they're number one. Every time Microsoft makes one of these moves, like MLB coming over, or Bethesda titles are now are going to be exclusive. Or again, let's just imagine this happens. Kojima is now part of the Xbox family, part of the Xbox brand. It just chips away at that narrative. And the idea that the kind of this fatalistic idea that Sony would just always be number one because they're light years ahead. It's like maybe one day you wake up and that's not the case anymore. And the kind of moves that Xbox is making right now are maybe that's part of what gets you there.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, it's funny because I'm on Clubhouse and stuff a lot, and there's this one weekly gaming session that I'm in where we talk about all this stuff. And the conversation this week was basically about the MLB, the show stuff, and Game Pass and all that. But the whole point of it was, again, Xbox has really started to lay the foundation that if they get their internal studios right, if they start cranking out hit after hit after hit, that is competing with PlayStation, like you're saying, that narrative could literally flip overnight, potentially. We're not there yet. I mean, they got to actually show that these studios are making compelling games that people want to play. But you see the aggression that's happening right now. You see what they're attempting to do. And I mean, it's exciting to see, to be honest with you, because I want a super competitive Xbox against PlayStation where there isn't a quote unquote clear cut leader, where there's just, holy shit, both PlayStation and Xbox are making great things. This is awesome. We benefit. Ultimately.
I mean, I've been starting to, in terms of the optics, I've been starting to see, because I watch a lot of YouTube gaming videos on YouTube, the algorithm recommends gaming to me, all these videos all the time. And I'm seeing a lot of these big YouTubers that run their own gaming channels. Some of them, they get millions of hits, some of these guys. And, I've seen a trend lately, a lot of these videos, Xbox is killing it right now. They're making Sony look lazy. Why isn't what's Sony doing? Bethesda, Discord, MLB. People are talking about Kojima now. Like, where's the aggression? Where's the hunger on the Sony side? Are they resting on their laurels? This is a tortoise and hare type situation. We don't know, and we don't know where it's all going to go. But right now, I'm loving the aggression. I'm loving the hunger from Microsoft. They really seem to just want it a little bit more at this point.
Yeah, I honestly think, because that's another thing I've seen a lot. Like, why isn't PlayStation doing anything? What's going on with PlayStation? I don't think they're resting on their laurels. I just think Xbox is being overly aggressive right now. I mean, in a quote unquote standard gaming year, you wouldn't see this much gaming news coming from one particular brand as much as we've seen with Xbox this year. It's very unique in that situation. I honestly just feel like PlayStation's like, hey, we know we got Returnal coming. We know we got Ratchet and Clank coming. We'll wow them this summer and everything will be right with the world. It's been working, so I don't see why they would need to change from that. I don't think they need to quote unquote panic or deviate from that because the Xbox is being aggressive. I think they clearly need to pay attention to what Xbox is doing and, make a note of it so that if they do need to pivot at some point in the future, they can. I just don't think they really need to right now. I think, again, it's more of Xbox is still in catch-up mode, and we're seeing it happening real time where they're trying to catch up quickly. And I truly do think they will. I think by the time we get to holiday 2022, that's when we're truly going to start to see the fruits of the labor of all these internal studios and what they've been working on. I mean, the pandemic has obviously slowed things down, but that's when I think, especially now that Bethesda's on board, you're really going to start to see more unique and diverse, titles coming from Microsoft Game Studios. And again, it's exciting.
Some more exciting stuff when we keep up with not only Jeff Grubb, but another friend of the show, our good friend from Windows Central Gaming, Jez Corden, put out a tweet right there and made you say what? Yeah. So let's continue with the say what section of the show right now. Of course, Jez over from Windows Central Gaming and one of my favorite Xbox podcasts, the Xbox 2 podcast with Randall Thor. Jez tweeted out, don't count out Xbox Global Publishing either. Eye emojis. Some really interesting partnerships in the work. Swirl emoji. So there I am going, Jez, what the heck are you talking about? I got Parris giving the eyeballs. I got everybody and their mother in the Xbox community giving their eyeballs. And Jez is always fun. He's always out there having a good time. Now, Parris, what the heck the swirl emoji mean to me and you and all the Xbox gamers out there? Is this a Kojima thing with Jeff Grubb? Is this something totally different? What is Jez doing to me on social media?
Oh, okay, I have another conspiracy, Steve, on this one.
Oh, give it to
me. And the swirl, I think, yeah, obviously it could be Ubisoft. Who knows what? Jez, who knows these days? Could just be trolling everyone. I love him. But it made me think again. And this kind of goes back to the whole thing where we were talking last week about Game Pass, where it kind of clicked with me with Bungie. Obviously, no brainer. I kind of see why Destiny 2 was on Game Pass. We talked about that. But let's stick with Bungie for a second. So you talk about global partnerships. That, to me, that's saying that you're getting an independent studio or another third-party studio to make a game that is being published by Microsoft Game Studios is kind of how I see it, right? So we know the history of Xbox and Bungie. We know they had a little breakup there in the late 2000s, and obviously that wound up them going to Activision, Destiny. The rest is history. They have seemed to have made up here in the past few years. Phil Spencer obviously has done some streams with Pete Parsons with Destiny. Obviously, Phil Spencer again is a huge Destiny guy. Xbox, Bungie seem to be on a great relationship. Obviously, the Game Pass deal. We know Bungie is making a second IP to go parallel with Destiny 2. The rumors I saw was something like maybe 2025. What if a deal was made that Microsoft is helping to fund that effort and maybe co-publish it along with Bungie, and it winds up being an Xbox game that is on Game Pass? Not even that it's completely exclusive, but what if it's just, hey, we worked out this deal, we're going to work closely with Bungie, we're going to make sure that it's on our platform on Game Pass day one, and we're going to help co-publish it. That's my wacky theory, because I could totally see something like that happen.
I love the wacky theories. And whenever Jez comes out with something fun, everybody's going out there. And of course, now I'm scrolling through all the comments, right? I'm like, swirl. What does swirl mean to me, right? And of course, you immediately think of Ubisoft, right? And we've talked about Ubisoft and that possible partnership and what that could be, similar to what we see with EA and EA Play, right? Bringing that over to Game Pass could be a killer deal, right? To add on to all of those incredible titles in that would be great. But I kept scrolling right past. I was like, I got to keep going into this. I got to see what this world is. Yeah. People were putting out Dreamcast logos. I was laughing. I was chuckling at that. But I will say there was one that did catch my eye, and that was Iron Galaxy. And I was like, man, that's actually a good one, because I know my good friend Jez loves to bring up Killer Instinct and how Microsoft is slacking in that fighting games category, and always brings up, like, what's going on with Killer Instinct? Will we ever see that again? And I said, well, you know what? Iron Galaxy has a swirl logo, and I took a look. They're a really big support studio out there, and they actually were the lead developers on season 2 and season 3 of Killer Instinct. Of course, founder was Dave Lang. You have Chelsea Blasco over there and Adam Boyes. And I'm like, man, maybe Iron Galaxy. And of course, we put our tinfoil hats on and we have some fun. But a good one there over on the Twitterverse. Gary, swirls, eye emojis, rumors, Mills, fun, having good times. Where we at, Gary? Tell me all about it.
I mean, this is all part of the fun, isn't it?
It is. It is.
It's fun. These rumors and like these little clues. It's like almost like an ARG, like the puzzles, the trail of breadcrumbs. Everyone's speculating. It's part of the fun. I don't think the Killer Instinct call is the worst one in the world. That's a game that certainly could use a refresh. You look at, I mean, and it is one of Microsoft's, that's practically a classic franchise. I mean, I remember, it obviously started as what was it, like an N64 title when it first started. It was a coin op and a.
I think so.
It
was in the arcades. I remember it in the arcades.
Yeah, because it was. But then it was Rare that developed it. And Rare, was purchased by Microsoft. Now it's a Microsoft franchise. Fighting game market is a tough one, right? I don't know. I'm not an expert, but there's a handful of games out there that are considered the legit ones. More, where Mortal Kombat is right now. I look at these. I watched a YouTube video the other day. It was all the fatalities in Mortal Kombat 11. And I'm like, holy shit, these fucking games are off the hook now. Like, not only is it obviously just incredibly violent, and also like itchy and scratchy levels of ways that you can like do horrible things to one another, but the visual fidelity on Mortal Kombat 11 is just absolutely stunning. It's the best looking fighting game I've ever seen. You go back to even the most recent version of Killer Instinct, you think, man, that's like light years behind. So if Microsoft, we talked about it before, Microsoft wants to get into the cutesy platformer game, Banjo, we can't do an Xcast without mentioning Banjo, right? Banjo Kazooie's on the bench. Put him back in the game. And if they decided that there's money to be made in the fighting games business, bringing back Killer Instinct probably makes a lot of sense as well. So who knows? We're really, really pie in the sky here. We're just kind of making it up as we go. But again, it's all good because we are living in a world right now where the shit that Microsoft is actually doing on the regular is so crazy that like it doesn't matter what the next crazy thing is. You just kind of go, sure, why not? Like that's the world we're living in now. Crazy shit's happening all the time. So Killer Instinct coming back, Banjo coming back, Kojima, becoming like Mr. Xbox Japan, like who knows? It's all on the table. It's all possible.
Yep, agreed.
Always fun stuff. Well, that is the pie in the sky rumor mill roundup that we got going on. Of course, Jeff Grubb dropping the bombs. You can go check him out over at Games Beats. And of course, Jez, our good friend over at Windows Central Gaming. Check him out on the podcast. They are both insightful. They're very well-known industry insiders. And when they speak, you always take notice. So it was fun over that throughout the week. But let's talk about something else that's coming back into our lives right after a moment with our sponsor. This week, the Kind of Funny Xcast is brought to you by Upstart. When it comes to paying off debt, it can often feel like an uphill battle. High interest rates resulting in minimum monthly payments keeps you in an endless cycle of debt. Upstart can help you get ahead. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get a simple, fixed monthly payment. Unlike other lenders, Upstart looks at more than just your credit score, like your income and employment history. This means they can offer you smarter rates with trusted partners. When Greg moved to SF 50 years ago, the loan he took out didn't factor in anything but his credit score. He got a terrible rate, and Upstart could have really helped him. With a 5-minute online rate check, you can see your rate upfront for loans between $1,000 to $50,000. You can receive funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/kindafunny. That's upstart.com/kindafunny. Don't forget to use the URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/kindafunny. Welcome back, everybody. We got a special one here, something that we've talked about before, you two, and something that's coming back to life here throughout the summer. E3 is back, and it's got some help with Xbox. So I'll read directly from the E3 news post. It says, it's game on for E3 as the Entertainment Software Association, ESA, officially unveils plans for a reimagined all-virtual E3 2021 that will engage video game fans everywhere. With early commitments from Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two Interactive, Warner Bros. Games, Koch Media, and more to come, E3 2021 will take place this June 12th through June 15th. Developers will be showcasing their latest news and games directly to fans around the world. The ESA will be working with media partners globally to help amplify and make this content available to everyone for free. Parris, Gary, we missed it all last summer. It was the summer games mess, as our good friend Jeff Grubb liked to coin the term there. It was a wild summer last year, and of course, COVID-19 really took precedence, right, as everything changed throughout the month of March through that spring into summer, and E3 really tried their best and backed out right at the last moment and fully actually canceled, which led to everybody out there doing their own thing throughout the summer. And when I say everybody out there doing their own thing, there was a lot, guys. I mean, I actually did the quick rundown of things. You had 2 Xbox showcases. Sony had their console reveal. Nintendo had something in September. EA Play in June. Devolver Digital in July. Ubisoft Forward in July and September. IGN Summer of Gaming. Guerrilla Collective. Summer Games Fest. New Game Plus Expo. Night City Wires. There was so much. And I'm not mad as a gamer. I love all this, right? But we missed that moment, Parris and Gary, where it was just the week of video game news, the week of video game hype, and all the fun showcases. Now we see E3 is coming back with some support from some big-time names. Parris, what does this mean to you? Is this the move? Is this going to help us throughout this summer with all the announcements?
Well, I first have to say, Mr. Gary Whitta, I have officially lost my bet. I am conceding You,
What happened?
sir, because on Kind of Funny Daily Tuesday with Greg, remember I chimed in and I was like, there is no way they're going to have Starfield or Halo Infinite at this E3. They're not doing that. They're going to do it later. I'm wrong. They're going to do it. It's going to happen. You're right. You're 100%
Did you just
right.
change your mind on that, or do you have new information?
No, just kind of reading tea leaves and just seeing that if they're going to have a presence during this virtual E3, you might as well just go ahead. If you're going to have a press briefing and the whole thing, just do it big. Do it all right then and there.
Microsoft is not doing anything small right now.
Can't believe John BX32 has been right all along in saying that Starfield is going to be this year, you know?
I don't.
We vilified the man on PS I Love You, XOXO.
You took it too far. That's too far. I am not saying it's coming out this year. I've always said you're going to see it this year. We'll see it. It'll be at E3. But TBD if it actually makes it to this year. But no, Gary, you're right. I do think at this point, it kind of just makes sense for them that whatever big event that they're going to do, they might as well just do it all during E3.
I mean, look, they just dropped $7 billion on Bethesda. This is the first big event they're going to do. They're going to want to show whatever the new thing is, right? That's the perfect forum for it. So yeah, good to have you aboard, Parris.
Yeah, I can admit when I'm wrong. I thought about it like the next day, and I go, "Damn it, he's right. It's gonna happen." But hey, again, exciting. It goes back to what you're saying, Mike. I mean, this kind of, it's going to be virtual, which again is 99.9% of most people. They watch E3 virtually anyway. So from that perspective, not much is going to change. But yeah, go ahead, have your big event. Maybe they do it like on the 13th or something, because that is a Sunday, and that's typically when they have their big media showcases anyways, during E3. So they could do it during the 13th, have their big Xbox event. It sounds like going by Grubb is, what is he? Famous leaker? What was the thing they called him? Anyways, but it looks like whatever he may potentially know, it does sound like they're going to split the events, which I'm actually surprised by, and not integrate Bethesda into whatever they're going to show. Like they're going to have two events. If that's true, okay, just do it all on the 13th and just literally own that day, because that's all people are going to talk about.
Let me tell you, Jeff Grubb certainly leaked when he tried to stream snipe me in PUBG, and I shot him in the head. I think he pissed his pants. Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
I think it is a little bit different, Parris. Yes, most people watch these at home. Obviously, there's many people watching at home than there are like in the auditorium. But the difference is they usually do get to people when you're watching at home, you do kind of feed off the energy of the people who are in the auditorium, right? Mm-hmm. You're breathtaking, Keanu Reeves, the whole thing. Like there's that live, we've seen this in sports, right? I've been watching Premier League football now for the past year, playing in front of empty stadiums, and they have to pipe in the fake crowd noise because it's dead. It's dead without a live crowd, right? That's one thing we learned real quick. And, we've been doing this now for long enough. We're past a year that we've been living with COVID and lockdown. We've already seen like a whole round of companies, whether it be, Sony, Apple, Microsoft. A lot of these companies have already done these big events where, it's basically a pre-recorded video package and there's no real crowd, or they have a very small socially distanced crowd. And something has definitely been lost. There is just something about a big crowd, whether it's at a sports event or a music, concert like a stadium arena, or a big, splashy Sony, Ubisoft, Microsoft type event. They always make a big deal out of the crowd, and they have the crowd shots and the reactions and the hootering, hollering. We're going to go another year without that. And the question, you have to try and find a way to communicate the excitement without, feeding off the energy of a live audience. But we've been doing this for a while now, right? We've been living with this reality for a while. So I think, we've kind of come to accept it. It will probably be the last time around that we have to do this. God willing, by the end of the year, we'll be back to, big live events and things like that as the world goes back to normal. So this will probably be the last time we have to go through something like this, hopefully. And I've got bigger thoughts about whether or not we do need one big unified event every year, or it's fine just to have all these different events, EA Play, Sony State of Play, Inside Xbox, Nintendo Direct. I personally, if I were one of these big companies, I wouldn't have anything to do with E3. I'm like, listen, we're Xbox, we're Nintendo. People are going to watch us whenever we do our event. Why do I want to be part of a news cycle where I get to own the news cycle in the morning, but 3 hours later everyone's talking about what Sony's unveiling because they're coming later in the day? I would rather do it on my own timetable, on my own terms. but there's a lot of eyes on E3 for sure. I understand why you want to be part of a bigger event. It's a long-standing tradition at this point. You're gonna see all the hype. You're just not gonna have the hooting and the hollering that we typically get when we have a live audience, and that's a shame. Something is definitely lost. But I think, and don't forget, the EA say they have to make money, right? E3, they're a business, and E3 is where they make a lot of money. They had to bench it last year because it went down to the last minute with COVID, and they didn't have time to pivot to a virtual event. Really. This year, if they're smart, and the ESA, who the fuck knows? But they've had a year to prepare for this, right? They probably knew ever since they had to bench the last E3 that they might well have to do the next one virtually as well. So hopefully they've put together they've got a good strategy, a good package, a way to make this E3 as exciting as possible as a virtual only event. But who the hell knows? The ESA screws up all the time, so who the hell knows?
Yeah,
what to expect.
It's really exciting, and I'll pull the Phil Spencer tweet because I think that was really well said and something that we'll touch on here in a moment. But he wrote, "Glad to see the games industry coming together again in June for a digital E3. This and other summer events are proof that our industry is strongest when we work together. Looking forward to share what we have in store this summer." And it's fun. Gary, you touched on it, right? If you were one of these bigger companies, you'd say, hey, I can do my own thing. I don't need you, right? And I think when you look at all sides of it, it is really awesome to see Phil and the team come in here and support the ESA and E3 and say, hey, we're here for you alongside Nintendo and other larger publishers, because I really do believe when those big guys are there, everybody else gets to share in the spotlight as well, right? If Parris is there, that makes me take note of everyone around him, right? And that means the same for Xbox and Nintendo, right? If they show up and they have a great conference, that means I'm going to see the smaller teams as well, because I'm locked in for that whole week. I'm searching the IGNs, I'm watching all the conferences, and they might not get the giant spotlight like Xbox will, but at least they'll be there and they'll be uplifted by these larger companies around them. So I really love seeing Phil, who has always talked to us and all the community about it's a team effort, right? It's all of us in this together, and it is nice to see the video game industry rally together after what was last summer, where it was dragged out. We were lost. We didn't know what Tuesday or which Thursday anybody was going on, right? Except for those big dogs. And we felt bad for the smaller teams. And I think it is exciting to see all of us rally behind this date and say, hey, here we are. But Parris, I'll go to you on this question of I got blessed to go to E3 in 2019. And I always heard that, well, Microsoft isn't really part of E3. They're there, but they're not. And you don't understand it when you're outside, right? Because when you watch it, you see the conference, you think, oh, that's great, and people are going different directions, but you don't actually see the street in between, right? Where there's the LA Convention Center with E3, and then you actually have to leave the building, go over to the Microsoft Theater. Your badge still works part of E3 to go inside of it, but it is different, right? Does this make for a partnership in the future, Parris, where maybe we are together, or will it always be, I'm across the street, you see me over there?
And that's kind of why my initial thinking was they're not going to do anything there, because my last few years' memories of E3 was they really weren't there, anyways. They were across the street. They were conducting all their business across the street. They weren't truly a part of the quote unquote E3 experience at the LA Convention Center. They're doing it at the Microsoft Theater. And a lot of things E3 related were starting to happen more and more off site and not on the show floor. So this virtual one, it's not going to matter because everything is going to be virtual, but it's going to be interesting to see, knock on wood, 2022 comes around. What does E3 look like at that point if we can have in-person events again? Because let's go back to last year. Let's remember, Jeff Keighley, he had left before the pandemic even happened and decided to go his own way. E3 was already going to do something drastically different from what they had done in 2019. PlayStation is gone. EA is gone. Activision, who the hell knows? So it's I don't know. I don't know what a normal E3 will look like moving forward. I still can't see Xbox going back into the convention center, because if you remember, and I think, Mike, when you were there, I think the year they were doing it, their presence in the convention center was Mixer. There is no Mixer anymore. So now what? What are you going to do? I don't know. They have the Microsoft Theater. That worked for them. I truly don't know. I don't know what the future of E3 looks like. But Gary, you kind of brought up a point which made me think of something else. A couple weeks ago when we were talking about Comic-Con and the decision they made to having an in-person event on Thanksgiving, they admitted that was fueled by they needed revenue, they needed money, or they might go away. I do wonder if even with this virtual E3, that's part of it too. They had to do something this year. They had to get some kind of revenue coming in, or maybe they don't exist in 2022 or beyond to even have this conversation about an in-person E3 again. So again, I simply don't know. This is one that I'm fascinated to see, because when I look at PAX, to me, that makes way more sense as a fan-driven event. Comic-Con, obviously the same thing. I had the lucky opportunity to go to Gamescom in 2019, and that is just truly built for the fan experience. They're pumping hundreds of thousands of people through there, but they do it in a smart way for the media, where they have a complete business center where the media can get all their work done the same time that the fans are interacting at the booths. E3 was never built to sustain both. And with the public coming in the last couple of years at E3, it was just freaking chaos. I mean, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. So I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what the future holds for E3, but I'll just take my L right now about Microsoft, because I was wrong about the virtual.
I got to say, I'm not terribly optimistic about the future of E3. One of the things that we keep saying about COVID and the pandemic is that, we keep talking about going back to normal, but then we also immediately talk about how the new normal is not going to be just the same as the old normal.
Right.
This pandemic has been so profound, and we've all lived a very different life for a whole year. Like, just in my core business of Hollywood, right, we're seeing all of these major studios now experimenting with different ways of releasing movies, right? HBO Max have been putting like first release movies. They just put Godzilla versus Kong on HBO Max, free with your subscription the same day it was in theaters, and it's been a big hit. Disney's experimented with different business models, bringing their movies day and date to Disney Plus. We've seen all these different, and I guarantee you they're gathering all kinds of data, and and a lot of them are thinking, there might be more money in doing it this way. Maybe we don't just go back to the old way of like movies being exclusive in theaters. Maybe it could well be that we don't know yet. It's too early to say. We don't know what data the studios are seeing. But when we go back to normal, it might be a new normal where you don't have to go to a theater day one to see a new release movie. You can just get it on HBO Max or Disney Plus or whatever. Maybe there's a fee, maybe there's not. We're going to experiment with different models. But that might be one thing that is now forever changed, because we went through a year where we learned a whole bunch of different shit.
Yeah, we did.
The way that we work. Some companies are saying to their employees, you don't ever worry about coming back to work. You can just work from home now because we've got a year's worth of data that tells us it works, right? Did that happen to you, Parris?
Yeah, just 2 weeks ago, they were like, yeah, don't come back.
I know I've had people telling me that my whole career. So all of this stuff is, again, we're gonna see permanent changes. Excuse me. And one of the things that we might see is E3 might never be the same again, right? Maybe E3 transitions to being. I personally think the E3 in-person event sucks. I've never liked going to E3. PAX does it so much better. PAX is a way better in-person event than E3 ever was.
Yeah.
Better, just more fun, better managed, greater focus on the gamer. It feels less corporate. It's just way better organized. E3 was never great at the in-person event. Like, it was spread out, organized badly. It was a mess.
The best thing about like in-person E3 was just being able to like quickly catch up with other industry people, and that's really
as a social net. Yeah, and we all loved going to the FIG or the JW or the Omni or whatever, and drinking and going out and having dinner. Like, as a social hub, it was great, but that was incidental to the actual business event that was taking place.
Exactly.
But Parris, you're absolutely right. Like, the ESA, obviously, it has other things that it does, but the main thing that it does, really, in terms of its revenue, I believe, is put on E3. And the same with Comic-Con having to put that event on over Thanksgiving. I don't think they wanted to do that, but if staging conventions, in-person conventions or virtual conventions is your core business, and you can't operate your core business, you're going out of business.
Yep.
And so they had to do something. Again, I still think a virtual Comic-Con would have been a smarter move than the Thanksgiving event that no one seems that excited about. I think a virtual E3 makes perfect sense for E3. They couldn't do nothing. Like, doing nothing was not an option. And I think rather than try to stage like a scaled down E3 where they still would have got shit about COVID and safety because we're not out of the woods yet, and I don't think it would have felt like anemic. Just go all out on like the most lavish virtual event that you can. Again, we're remains to be seen how well they do it, But I think I think what they're trying to do is the right thing, because again, they have to do something, otherwise they will go out of business.
Agreed.
It's interesting, Gary, you brought it up. I guess the frame would be, can Xbox and others save E3 here? Because now what we'll see is this virtual event, right? This isn't us going to the LA convention and Xbox and Nintendo and everybody being there and opening the doors and saying, come in and play the games. This year, it's going to be, hey, we're putting on our conferences during this online event. But in all honesty, right, you're going to go to youtube.com or twitch.com/Xbox or twitch.com/Nintendo, right? Like, is E3 really going to be the one ownership of this broadcast? And does that change the tide? Or does this just bring the name E3 back into relevance for hopefully next year, where maybe the partnership does do well with Xbox, Nintendo, and so on, so they can bring everybody back next year? Because this year, it's totally different, right? It's all online, but like, how will the E3 branding really be present and leave a lasting feel? That's something interesting to me.
I think one thing about just the symbol of E3, I feel like what we were seeing before the pandemic is it wasn't necessarily important to participate in it, but it was important to put your information out around it. So as an example, being in person, Devolver Digital has been across the street forever, right? And the trailers doing their thing. And that was like its own event to be able to go over to that. And obviously they would have their own press conferences and show off their games that way. Like we're saying, Microsoft is across the street right now. EA was doing EA Play down in Hollywood, but it was all happening around the symbol that was E3. So I think in that sense, keeping this more Xbox centric, even if they were going to do their own event, it probably made sense for them to do it around the spectacle that is E3. And at that point for them, it was like, well, we might as well just be officially a part of the event instead of, sitting on the outside looking in. Whereas like Devolver Digital obviously was not one of the ones that's participating. We know PlayStation isn't participating, EA, but they're probably going to have events around that same week too. You know what I mean? So in that way, E3 still does hold importance. And I've been a huge skeptic and critic about its relevance the past few years, but I get it. I get why we have it. Obviously, 2001 was a magical moment for me the first time I got to go. And, I've tried to go every year since. I think it was Barrett was saying, selfishly, the social experience of it has been huge. But that's not the case for 99% of the people. So I try to look at it from that perspective because they're just simply not there. So I don't want it to go away in that sense. But yeah, like you said, Gary, we're going to have some new normal that comes out of this. And what it is, I mean, we just don't know yet. We'll have to see next year.
Yeah, I mean, if the ESA has a really successful virtual E3, they may just decide that they don't want it. That the in-person events just, if this pandemic forces them to try a different business model and they come back and go, oh shit, like this actually works really well. Yeah. Why go back to the old way of doing it?
Yep, I agree.
All right, well, we'll circle our calendars. June 12th through June 15th, an all digital and free E3. That was the big one there, of course, when we led into that lot of hullabaloo of are they going to try to charge for certain aspects of this E3 that would most likely be all digital? Xbox coming in along with a number of other teams to support this. So we'll check that out. And when I ran through all the studios, man, Xbox is going to hit you with a 1-2 punch. But we'll do the predictions later. But like, there's a lot that this team could show with themselves and Bethesda. It's going to be a ton of fun. But let's keep the show rolling as we near the end of this one. We got an Xbox Game Pass alert that you need to know about because there's a whole lot of news coming your way. So games coming in on April 8th. Grand Theft Auto 5 comes to cloud and console. It's making its return. Zombie Army 4 Dead War comes to cloud, console, and PC. Disney Adventures comes to cloud. Rush, I probably misspelled that. Rush, a Disney/Pixar adventure. Oh, okay. Coming to cloud. And then April 12th, NHL 21 coming to console. April 15th, Rain on Your Parade, cloud, console, and PC, along with Pathway on PC. April 20th, MLB The Show 21. And then, of course, leaving, as many of you need to go get your hands on these games before they go. April 15th, Deliver Us the Moon, Gato Roboto, Wargroove will all be leaving. Along on April 16th, we got a big EA one here as Madden 15, 16, 17, 18, and the 25th anniversary will be leaving alongside NHL 18th $1.19. So a whole lot there. Remember, Xbox Game Pass members can save up to 20% on games leaving Game Pass, while Ultimate and PC members can save up to 10% on EA Play games. So something to keep in mind out for if you're looking to grab those games before they go. A big one here for your Game Pass update is cloud gaming now has 50 plus games with touch controls. It's crazy to think that we started with Minecraft Dungeon, Parris, right? We started with Minecraft Dungeons with touch controls. Now 50 plus already able to play. The big ones coming in: Sea of Thieves, Gears 5, Dragon Quest 11, Echoes of the Elusive Age, Slay the Spire, and many more. Some big standouts for you if you want to play with touch controls: Minecraft Dungeons, Hellblade, Killer Instinct, Streets of Rage 4, Dead Cells, Hot Shot Racing, Tell Me Why 1 through 3, Golf with Your Friends, Gears 5, Donut County, Sea of Thieves, Viva Pinata 1 and 2. The list goes on, y'all. It's crazy that this team listened to the community, took in the feedback, and said, you know what, we will add touch controls in a meaningful way, and we'll make it happen. And they've done that with 50 plus titles in a pretty short span. And so when I read this, I immediately jumped on my phone and I said, well, you're telling me Gears 5 has touch controls enabled? I'll give it a try. It's wild. It has touch controls, but it's probably the wrong game for touch controls. I'm going to be 100% honest with everybody. There's a lot going on in that shooter that touch controls probably don't work for, as you want to dial it back a little bit to an easier game. But it is wild to see what they've done with the two thumb sticks, we'll call it, and all the buttons all around it, where you can customize them and move them and mirror it. But like, to see them have active reload, aim down sights, you're shooting on one thumbstick, you're moving all around, and to think, man, I'm playing Gears 5 with touch controls is absolutely wild. And I took to Twitter today, Parris and Gary, to like show that and be like, wow, I'm playing Gears 5, right? And like, people were so mixed. Like, there was a lot of people who were like, oh, that's so cool. And then one person wrote like, why though? And it's like, oh man, I don't know if people really grasp, like we've talked about this before, Parris, of like that, take a step back, right? It's like, why? Well, you know, think of yourself at school or at work. You got a 15, 30-minute break. Bang. Do you really want to carry a controller around in your backpack or pocket? Not all of us do. So you have this ready to go. Might be at an airport or something like that. And it's really cool to see that, man, I don't have to carry all that extra stuff. I don't have to invest in the Razer Kishi to be able to play some of these games still on my phone from the cloud, because the touch controls are right there. And I think that's a big one there. Of course, you can elevate that. You can play it on your PC, on your Xbox, but this was that third piece of the ecosystem that really rounds it out of play anywhere at any time. And now with touch controls being elevated, I just think it's so cool of like, man, this is the future we're living in. And I'm playing Gears 5, and sure, I'm not good at it, and I'm definitely not getting kills, but like, if Parris called me and was like, hey, Mike, what you doing? I'm like, well, I'm at work. I got 20 minutes to do anything. He's like, want to play Horde mode? I'd be like, heck yeah, Parris, let's play Horde mode, and we'd have a good time.
You know, it's funny, and I'm already apologizing because I'm trying to think of her name and I'm blanking right now. But Major Nelson had Kareem Chowdhury, and oh my God, I'm forgetting her name, and I do apologize right now. But basically, Kareem Chowdhury and another person from the Project xCloud and backwards compatibility team to kind of talk about, you know, the new, you know, things that they put on there. But they did touch on the touch controls and how that works, and I highly suggest people go check out that episode and catch that, because it was really informative. One thing that he brought up, just speaking on backwards compatibility, Kareem Chowdhury was talking about the history of that, because he's the one that started it, the initiative. And he was saying that, you know, when he first brought it up, I guess Phil Spencer basically recruited him in to come do it and said, hey, I think, you know, I want you to be part of my team or whatever. Again, go listen to the interview. But the point that he was trying to make was his proposal to Phil Spencer was, I need you to give me and my team an entire year to see if we can figure this out. And then after a year, we'll tell you if it works or not. And Phil Spencer said, okay. So just that conversation alone tells me this whole backwards compatibility initiative, which ultimately is now led into cloud streaming, and we're seeing it there, all started with a conversation like that, where, you know, you had to have the foresight to say, I'm going to allow these really smart people uninterrupted time to see if they can crack the code to figure out if we can emulate this and bring all these games forward on the current consoles. And clearly they did it. But they did say this is not an easy thing. Like they're almost taking these games on a case by case basis, and there's different hurdles and things that they encounter as they do it. And one other thing, and again, I'm dying that I can't remember this woman's name, and I do apologize. But she was saying that they don't touch the code at all when they make these backwards compatible games. So the code, the initial code, that the game was created on remains intact, and they encapsulated whatever. Again, watch the interview, but it was actually fascinating to hear how all this is working on the engineering side on the back end to bring what now has become, everyone's looking at this as that's the gold standard to get to what Xbox has built with their whole backwards compatibility. And then now you're seeing that start to come to cloud streaming. And like you're saying, Mike, you're seeing them add touch control. So it's just adding another layer of accessibility to it for people to be able to engage with these games. And that's crazy to think that all this has happened in the past, where are we now, 2021, like the past 6 years, they've been able to kind of get to this point. So it's pretty amazing.
I just wanted to weigh in. Just one additional point that's I guess kind of related to this that we were talking about right before the show is that it's been interesting to see the phone manufacturers, the hardware manufacturers, react to this increase in game stream, whether it be Stadia or Luna or xCloud. There's obviously all these different ways now you can stream games to your phone, and it's not just this that they're reacting to, but the fact that, like, mobile gaming just alone, just like games that you play natively on your phone, obviously is a huge segment of gaming overall. Like, it's a multi-billion-dollar business, whether it be Candy Crush or PUBG Mobile. It's just a massive, huge business that we often don't even think. I guess we don't think of it as sexy as like quote unquote real games that we play on our consoles or our PC, but that's big money in mobile gaming. And it's only going to get bigger. Playing games on your phone is only going to get bigger as you can now play those AAA console games on your phone through these different streaming services. I was watching a video on one of my favorite YouTube channels to watch Unbox Therapy. A guy who just like takes gadgets out of their boxes and plays around with them. And he was looking today at a new Lenovo Android phone, which is absolutely hardcore, aimed at like crazy gamers. It's got like the RGB on the on the outside of it looks like a mini PC, just basically shrunk down and made into a phone. But it's got like physical fans that are spinning on the back of it. It's all got all kinds of crazy shit. It's basically engineered to be a high-end gaming phone. And one of the things that I thought was interesting about it was like they're never going to put thumbsticks on a phone. It's still the virtual thumbsticks, and they're not ideal. But I've seen several phones now, including this one, that actually have like left bumper and right bumper and left trigger and right trigger on the top of the phone. So when you put it into, or on the side of the phone, so when you put it into landscape mode for gaming, you actually have triggers and bumpers built into the phone. You don't have the Razer. Yeah. Here's the thing: the Razer Kishi, that little bracket thing they sent us that you can plug, that you can slot an Xbox controller into, and it holds your phone above it. That's all cool, but I honestly think a lot of those gadgets are kind of clumsy and awkward. We don't always want to be carrying around an extra piece of hardware. I would feel a little bit silly, like sitting in a Starbucks or whatever with my game controller and my phone, kind of playing a game, and just playing a game on my phone with no additional like stuff strapped onto it. I think I would feel slightly less self-conscious. So I think obviously the iPhone market's always going to be immune to this, because the iPhone's just going to be the iPhone. They're never going to do crazy shit like by putting bumpers and triggers on it. But the Android market, which is massive, even bigger than the iPhone globally, you're going to see a lot of competition, I think, for these high-end gaming phones from Lenovo, from Razer, from these places. And it's going to be partly because mobile gaming is getting bigger and bigger, but it's partly because this, in the coming years with Stadia, with Luna, with xCloud, and whatever other services come down the pike, playing games on your phone is going to be just a bigger and bigger thing. And you're going to see more and more phones catering to that market. So the idea of the Razer Kishi or the bracket or the thing that you put on the phone to make it more of a viable gaming device, I think there's always going to be some aspect of that, but maybe it'll go away as the phones themselves just become better at playing AAA console style games on them natively.
So cool. So much to look at. And remember, games coming in, games leaving, and 50 plus games now with touch controls for the cloud. Tell me, Parris.
One thing, I had to go look it up because it was killing me. So it's Peggy Lowe, and she is the lead for the compatibility team. Yeah, and I do apologize for not remembering that off the top of my head. But yeah, her and Karine Chowdhury on Major Nelson's podcast talking about the whole backwards compatibility initiative and talking about Project xCloud and just how all that stuff came about. Like I said, it was really good. Highly suggest people check it out.
I love that. I'm going to pause so you two can go run and grab your
Oh God,
flaming
we're
hot
not really doing this, are
salsa.
we?
I'm gonna give the best friends a quick heads up, so you have
All
a
right.
moment if you
I'm
want to
gonna
do
do
it.
it.
All
I'll
right,
be back.
Okay, all right, we'll be right back.
Here's some heads up for all the best friends out there. Things you need to know about for all the listeners and viewers. Hey, guess what? You could play the next Forza Motorsport soon. Yeah, that's right. This is coming from IGN.com by Matt Purslow. Turn 10 has announced that players will soon be able to go hands-on with the next Forza Motorsport game, provided they are part of the Forza feedback panel. Quote, we will soon be able to share our people in our Forza panel. They will actually be able to get their hands on a part of our new Forza Motorsport game, quote, said Chris Asaki, creative director of Forza Motorsport, in an update on Twitter. The only way to get your hands on this part of the new Forza Motorsport title is to be part of that panel, he revealed. So I'll encourage all of you to go on over to IGN, go check out Matt Purslow's article about this chance to go play the new Forza Motorsports title, because in that article, he actually has the sign up where you can be part of the Forza feedback panel. So if this interests you, if you want to see the future of Forza Motorsports, now's your chance to sign up. Some more big heads up. Your Xbox Game Pass quests for April are now available. Here are the 4 quests for the month that you need to know about. On Forza Horizon 4, if you earn 7,000 influence, you'll get 150 points. If you play PlayerUnknown's Battleground 2 games, you'll get 150 points. If you jump onto Alien Isolation and spend 5 minutes successfully avoiding alien detection, you'll get 150 points. And finally, for your monthly goals of April, Elder Scrolls Online Tamriel Unlimited, find 2 Sky Shards or have 3 Alliance versus Alliance kills. You'll earn 150 points. So make sure to go check out your quests for April. And, of course, check out your dailies and weekly quests. If you're saying to yourself, SnowBikeMike, what the heck is Game Pass quests? I'm going to talk more about this next week and give you a deep dive into this awesome program, how you can get involved, and what you might be missing out on, because it's really, really cool, really, really fun, and encourages play, which you should go check out. Your April games with gold, so you got to go grab these right now. Get available. Viking, Wolves of Midgard, Truck Racing Championship, Dark Void, Hard Corps Uprising are your 4 games with gold for the month of April. And the 2 big ones you need to know about: Age of Empires fan preview this Saturday, April 10th at 9 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time. Get ready to celebrate Age of Empires with some fun fan events. Age of Empires 2, 3, and 4 will be on display. You got to go check it out. April 10th at 9 a.m. Age of Empires fan preview. And finally, to finish this out, get ready to get scared again, as we have another Resident Evil showcase on April 15th at 3 p.m. West Coast, Best Coast time, hosted by our friend of the show, Brittany Brombacher from What's Good Games.
Yes.
So make sure to go check that out. You got a whole lot of things to be in the know about. And let's end this week's Kind of Funny Xcast with our 2 guys going up to the challenge. Gonna taste something real hot, provided by Outriders, Square Enix. People can fly. Parris and Gary, I'll go to you, Gary. What the heck is this bottle of hot sauce, and what is it coming in at?
Okay, so here it is. It's the Outriders Outriders Pyromancer thermal bomb sauce.
Ooh.
And it says right here on the label, warning, here's the label, warning, extremely hot, use with caution. Great tasting hot sauce with a serious kick. Avoid any and all contact with skin and body parts. Keep away from children. 120,000 Scoville units. And if you're familiar with the Scoville scale, that's no joke. So listen, in all seriousness, you have a tiny little dab of this, Parris. Otherwise, we're going to be in the hospital.
Okay.
I go on. Here's the thing. I'm going all in. I got my Halo's potato chips here. I'm going to put a tiny little amount on my Halo potato chip. What have you got there? Cheez-It or something? What is that?
No, this is like a sweet potato cracker.
All right. Oh, well, hold on. So be careful, because the bottle is like, it's not like there's like a little, it's you got to really kind of put this on carefully. Hold on.
Here, I want to see so people don't think I'm cheating.
Alexander Hernandez in the chat brings up a good point. Milk. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is that, Mike, I'm really scared that it's just going to be you and me next week.
You know what?
I got a feeling it's going to be
on the milk.
Mike's
Way
going to be
ahead
doing
of
the
you on
post
the
show
milk.
alone, so I got a feeling I'm running out
Let me show
of
you
here.
how much I put here. It's like it's that much. How much have you got there, Paris?
Oh, you put
And-
down
Do we
a
have a
lot.
similar amount?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I got more.
Yeah,
Here,
yeah. Paris might have a little more.
I'm gonna go for it. This is for Danny
You're going
Pena.
all in? Oh my god!
This is for Danny Pena.
Oh, gamer tag.
I got a
radio.
ton.
Here we go.
By the
Here
way,
we go.
Mike, just a small programming note. You're getting one of these boxes as well. So next week you're not
Next
getting.
week, I'm up to the
your
challenge.
punishment's
Oh,
just being
no.
delayed by a week. Are we doing this, Paris, on the count
Oh
of
my
three?
God! On the count of 3, and this is probably the end of the show for me. Just so you know. So
Oh,
here
yeah,
we
this
go.
will be the end.
All right,
2,
1, 2, 3.
3.
The Pyromancer firebomb sauce right here, hot sauce.
Okay. Wow.
100,000 Scoville units. You can see it in Paris'
120K.
eyes. Is that hitting you
Oh,
right
yeah,
off
I'm
the
feeling
bat,
it.
boys?
I'm feeling it.
Guys,
I got the hiccups. I got hiccups already.
I think Gary aged just like a couple of years in the last couple
Yeah.
of seconds.
Oh, God.
Just to hit him really quick on that one.
I'm about to start sweating.
Oh, I got the hot sauce always gives me hiccups. I got them immediately. Oh shit.
He did. Well, with that, let's conclude this week's Kind of
let's
Funny
conclude.
Xcast. Thank you all so
Yeah.
much for hanging out with us. These two are going to go find some milk. They're going to cool off with some ice cream, and we will enjoy our weekend of gaming. Thank you so much on behalf of Parris, Gary, and Barrett working the 1s and 2s and the whole Kind of Funny family. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you're on YouTube or on podcast services. Have a wonderful weekend and game a bunch. See you later.